Hi everyone, my name is Daphne Thompson and I help local governments achieve efficiencies and productivity, get rid of all that burnout by implementing AI in various situations. So today I have the utmost pleasure of continuing our conversation about AI and emergency management with Alanna Burton. Welcome.
Thank you, Daphne. I'm so excited to pick up this conversation again. So we touched on some really high level, but really important ways that you could help introduce efficiencies, use of AI into EOCs, municipal EOCs, and make emergency management smoother, faster, and more efficient.
Yeah, so what I've done is I've actually created a mock presentation on how this could actually work within the local government setting by making use of Monday.com, which is a project management system. Now, I know this is just the platform that I like. There is a whole other bunch of platforms that could also be used, for example, Trello, Asana, Microsoft Projects. This is just the one that I really like because it is user-friendly. There's a massive amount of support on this. There's so many different YouTube videos. But that's the reason why. It is easy to use, specifically if this is a system that the local government is already using for their project management, for example.
Amazing. So this isn't just specifically an emergency management software. This is something that can be used across in everyone's daily work to increase productivity and reduce burnout, things that you've said. So they can just pick up immediately and they're now in a virtual EOC setting.
Exactly. So the other reason why I like to use systems that's already incorporated within a local government is because then it cuts down on that learning curve. It cuts down on the way to figure out where things are. They're already familiar with it. In high stress environments, that is crucial time saved by just knowing where the buttons are, knowing how to operate the system, knowing how to fill out all the information.
Absolutely.
So, are you ready? Should we go through it step by step? And I can show you a practical example of how we can put our emergency preparedness manual online and use AI for it.
Yes, please. I'm so excited. And I think this is just such a great thing in my career. I've seen a lot of fancy applications, big technical, built out, custom made applications that can be very clunky to use. People aren't used to them. They're extremely expensive. And when you really need them the most, they can fail, which is very disappointing.
Exactly. So before we go into this, I know the first question that majority of our information officers and our CAOs are going to ask is, hey, but this one is hosted in America, so the servers are not in Canada. And that is true, 100%. But as we chatted about this, one, Alberta just made a change in June in their freedom of access of information and their Privacy Act to state that there are no more decisions are allowed to be made in camera or in private settings. All has to be made in a public setting. Every single one. Now, discussions can happen within camera, but the actual decision, that has to be done in public. So how will that translate to EOCs?
I think that's a great question. As you said, an EOC, I think there's a lot of forgiveness in the fact that things are happening very quickly. There's very limited information. I think this is such a great solution to prove and show why decisions were made. Even if they were not the best decisions, there's continuity in how those decisions came to be and who made them and under what conditions.
So when we do briefings, for example, and that is now being recorded under our freedom, the BC Freedom of Information Act at least, that now becomes an official record that it is FOI requestable. So a lot of people are saying, no, but if you talk about people's names and their personal information and medical conditions, that's sensitive information, which is totally true. But in an EOC setting specifically, we don't necessarily speak about people. We speak about the situation, right?
Absolutely. Private information is typically dealt with first responders on the scene, and next of kin. Any type of reach out is typically done by the police. It's never usually done specifically at the municipal level. You would not need to be recording that type of information. And that's a training point as well, just to not capture that information. It does not become part of the record. It's not part of the focus of the EOC's role in emergency management.
So under the best practices section of the Emergency Program Act and EMBC, it is guidance to say that the emphasis should be on the official documentation through approved logs and forms, but not recordings. Now, this is, again, for privacy and things and proper chain of command. But again, with AI, being able to assist in such an effective way with recordings, assigning tasks, doing the briefing minutes, the summaries of what's happening, do you think there is leeway that the BC Act at least will be adjusted in order to accommodate this?
Well, like you said, it is only a best practice. Unfortunately, emergency management is usually about 20 years behind the curve of technology and ways of doing things. It is very, I would say they're used to hard copies of things. Those, we have a perception that they don't get lost, or they make a lot of sense 20 years later, and they really don't. The truth is, I think that best practices are going to shift to models like these because of their efficiencies, because they make a lot more sense than, you know, chicken scratches on a napkin of why the EOC director made a decision. And a system like this puts it all together in a proper time flow. Typically, you would have a scribe in the EOC trying to handwrite what is happening, who said what, and when. And that task is extremely daunting for one person when there is so much going on, so many side conversations. And this captures it in one place. And the use of AI to summarize that, in my opinion, is no different than having a scribe trying to summarize that. And it's going to do a far better job with all of the pieces in place.
Exactly. And what I love about this, and again, Monday is just my preference. I'm not getting paid for this, none of that. It's just my preferred project management platform, is that all of this is now Excel exportable, which means our records manager is going to be loving it, because now everything is exported into an Excel spreadsheet, and they can file and save it into the secure project management system, which helps us now, again, because now all of this can be fed into a Copilot or a ChatGPT. I know ChatGPT has got other data residency issues, but all right, so let's chat about Copilot. If you put that in there, now that Copilot and ChatGPT is united, the brain power of Chat can help Copilot in the secure framework to analyze this and to create perhaps a kind of predictive analysis, or creating scenarios out of this, because we've got the data now and it's not handwritten somewhere.
I'm so glad you touched on that. Again, as someone that has done a lot of exercise development, you know, I'm trying to develop exercises for communities that I've never worked in. I don't know the individuals. I'm looking at old records that were handwritten, again, maybe 10, 15 years ago from an old incident that might not benefit them from, you know, I think I've created this great exercise, but it may not benefit their needs. With something like this, it can pinpoint, these are the areas that went wrong, these are the areas you can improve, and this is what worked really well.
All right, so let's go into the nitty-gritty of what it potentially could look like. So let's imagine this is your project management system that you are already using on a day-to-day basis. So learning curve is cut down, you know how it works, you know how to fill it all out. This is just another way of using the same system. This you can use for grant tracking, for your project management, for finance, audit checklists, for recruitment, for all of these things. There's a different way to do it in order to comply with legislation, but it can be used for that. So I created now this board, and remember, this can be customized for every community to their specific needs. And that's the beauty of it. And that's kind of where your expertise come in to say, all right, well, in this community, these are more the responsibilities, or likely the responsibilities that a director would need. Okay, so I just said director, overall leader, approve incident actions, blah, 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 communications, same, just very high level responsibilities, planning, logistics, liaison officer, public information officer, finance, and we can create more if there's needed. Within this now, we can create sub-items for what is the steps that they need to take. And this is where the personalization and the actual customization will come up. So I just created forms here, but we can create another group with all of the forms in there. So example, this is now the forms. We created in here also the incident status form, which lives within this specific framework. So we can start it, and now it has all the information on. Please note that my name is in there, so it's already logged who is filling out the form. The incident type, typo there, location, status, the current situation, objectives for the next operation. So the next person can now read here, already know what their objectives would be, the resource summary, the significant issues if they are, the date, if there's any files that they need to upload, summaries, emails, custom AI prompts, so we can tell AI to create something out of here, to summarize it, create a document, send an email, do a notification, whatever the case may be. Who is it prepared by? I can put that in there. Signature of that person, and we complete it. So now there's a data section of this, and we can do this for every form that we need. Now we come back to our system. Here we can assign who is now the director. So let's say I am the director, but I can also say that no, Alanna is also a director. And as Alanna starts now filling in things, it's tracking that you are now in charge, no longer Daphne. What is the status of this specific action? Here we could liaise with mayor and with council. Oh, this is the mayor's numbers already there. The council numbers are already there. Everything, and we can update it. So the contact details are already in there, and we can now just put here as an update. For example, mayor contacted and updated. Status is we are done. The owner is Daphne did it. Awesome. What was the date? Well, today is the 3rd. Cool. Sorted. If there's anything else that we need to add on here, we can put in the files or extra data. If we move on, what was the date that these were done? These are if there's any additional files, maybe images or whatever it is that we want to add on here, we can fill it out in the correct line. If, for example, our first responders have got their own board, our fire chief have got their own board, which we created here, now we can connect our EOC board with our fire chief's board. So now we can know exactly what is happening there. How does it meet with ours? The director has access to everything. It can take notes. So what are the notes for our meetings, the date, who has attended, what are the goals, our agenda items, the note, the background, if there's any action items that we need to do, added, done. We can ask AI to summarize what's happening. This states when was the last time it was updated. So there's a record of all of that, how long it took us for any specific situation. If there's emails that we need to send, this is if there's shifts. So we can add in, my shift is from 8 till 4 today. Alanna starts at 4 o'clock this afternoon. This is our customized prompt. So focus on the project completion, agenda, discuss the next steps, which AI did. So within Monday, that button there is the AI assistant. They call it the Sidekick. And in here, where it just says short text, that's all the form information that we get in and when we fill out various forms. Who are the people that filled it out? Who are the people that approved it? And then the signature if there's needed. Now, this goes on with everything, the communications, maintain communication for phones. Oh, we can add in here. Well, all right, phones ordered. And then again, put in the extra items if we need. Add here. Hey, for example, Alanna, well, we need to invite you first. So let's say I am Alanna and I say, hey, Daphne, double check the forms. Or let's say, Daphne, see forms for the ordering of the phones. But now it's trackable. We know when it is. I can update someone via email. Can put AI in there. You are mentioned for it and update. And now we know when it is, what was done. And we can even put a summary in there if it's needed to be. But now everything is recorded. So whatever the steps are, again, all the information that it might be needed for communications are listed in here. Oh, and they'll be able to find it. Planning, same thing. Customize any step that we need. Everything is recorded. Logistics, liaison, public officer, finance. So perhaps finance, because they're doing so many additional things, would want their own board. And we can create it that way and then just link it to this one so that the EOC director have access and understand everything. How does this look like as a practical example of what the EOC manual would look like online?
Honestly, my mind is blown. This is so exciting for me when I think of the EOC manual and how much time I spend trying to make customized checklists and forms. And there's, they are just a shot in the dark. There are so many things that I cannot think of, I can't predict. This is like a real-time update of a form that is customized to the incident. A lot of times these checklists that I try and make, you're running through these things and half of them might not be applicable, or half of them might lead you in the wrong direction. This is just amazing the way that it captures the different activities. Again, for future purposes, this can all be recorded and used again. You can create workflows that before working off paper and having to manually pass paper, manually walk across the EOC to speak to someone, anybody in the incident can have a snapshot of exactly what's going on, who's doing what is done, what they've done. Everything is captured, everything is accessible. And I've seen a lot of attempts at creating virtual EOCs. Again, very expensive. Most people are not using them in their daily life. They take time to boot up. Half the time people don't remember how to log in. This is just right at the fingertips and ready to go, and people are already familiar with it. It's phenomenal. It really, really is. There's too much for me to go on all day. I just want to get my hands on this and show it to a client and get them excited about how much better it could be. I've had painstaking conversations and training sessions trying to get people to fill out forms that they don't understand. This is so easy, and you can customize the forms. Excuse me. And they're simplified, they're there, which means people are going to actually use them. There are entire EOC training sessions on how to use EOC forms, and still they don't get used. This is actually going to capture the information that those forms should be capturing in a very organized and accessible way. It's phenomenal. I can't believe everyone is not doing this. I'm genuinely thinking this right now.
So that's exactly what I love. But again, system fatigue is a big thing, and we want to cut down on that. So the systems that they're already using, let's see how they can use EOC or emergency management within that as well. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. So that is now a project management system that can be used, customized, personalized for a incident as well as for a community. And all of this prep can be done beforehand. Like all the communication messaging that we need to go out can already be put in there for the communications manager. Everything, the statements, all of that can be pre-done so that they have a reference point. Okay, but now let's go into let's say we want to keep it within our Microsoft environment. Well, then we can make use of some of the Copilot Power Apps, where Copilot is currently assisting in creating those apps for us which is within the Microsoft environment. So let's take an example. We want to do now everything that we just did on Monday, and we can create a similar type of look and feel within Microsoft Power Apps, with the personnel, the roles, and their responsibilities in there, with a quick dashboard, a check-in from when they have to check in, check out, the roster, the incident commander, all of them can be put in there. Very similar to the dashboard that we just had a look at. Then we can also put situational reports. So it will replace the forms. We can have all of incident reports, situation reports, all of those things we can create within the app as well, which makes this really cool. The Power App situation is that can now link to Power BI, which is the insights of Microsoft. And that's why AI can help us quite a bit in understanding, like just a snapshot of what the latest incident is. The resource request, well, we can create all the ordering and tracking within the app, which is now just an added layer of the Monday's logistics person. And this can be shared within our SharePoint because now it is linked to our Microsoft environment. We can create the flows for logistics for approvals, where that should go, how the approvals will happen, because then our finance officer would be included and looped into these type of things. It can also add things like instead of manually compiling the Word documents, the step-by-step actions, our Power App can capture these things, create the period objectives, the strategies, assignments, by using, of course, our Power Automate. How about damage assessment and field input, public information tracking? So the apps that we can create within the Copilot and Microsoft environment is just a layer up of what I just showed you on Monday.
I can't believe the functionality that you're talking about. Again, I've seen very expensive apps be created and they cannot solve all of these problems. And then not only that, this is something, again, that you've brought up so many times, and I want to stress that it's multifunctional. This just slides right into the operations of the whole municipality. And again, like you said, you're just showing one example of a particular application, or what shall I call it? But you could technically go into a municipality, see what they're already working with, and do the same setup for them.
Exactly. Exactly. And the bonus out of all of this is for a local government that's already using Microsoft, these Power Apps sit inside the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. It ties so smoothly with Teams, with Outlook, with SharePoint, OneDrive, whichever part it is that they use. But that is a layer up. Like, it's not just the basic level of responsibilities and get us going. This is a layer up, where because it's now a new dashboard, there will be a slight learning curve.
Right. But your objective is to really work with the municipality and figure out their needs, which would be very different for a large city like Calgary or Vancouver compared to a small municipality in northern Alberta or northern BC, or an Indigenous community that has entirely different needs, entirely different setups. That's phenomenal again.
Exactly. So within the Power Apps, basic Power App could be have the dashboard that shows the current incident, the operational period, and some quick KPIs, have a site rep entry for a view ready, track the resources request and intake for approvals, and just a roster for check-ins and role assignments. That would be a basic standard just app, which is a different format than Monday, but does exactly the same thing, probably just a little bit better.
Well, my only last question for you, Daphne, I'm sold on this. How long would it take for you to go in and set up a municipality or a community with this type of a
Well, that depends on if they already have a plan that's ready. If they don't have a plan that's ready, then of course you would have to come in and assist with getting the plans up to date, because it's useless having something like this with an old plan even though everything can be customizable, but it would so much be better with an up-to-date plan. But let's say if it depends again if they want to do just the project management side or if you want to do the app creation. With the app creation, it is how long is a piece of string, because there's so many different functionalities that we can put into this. And of course, that just takes a little bit of longer time. But with the setup of the Monday or the current project management system, we could do that probably within a week, even less.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. I'm completely sold on this. And I know emergency management is a very small but extremely important piece of what a municipality does. I can't imagine what this could do for the whole entire organization. And I really would love to see, I would love to see a case study of someone who has gone through this process, and hopefully we can work with someone soon.
That'll be amazing. But so much, there's just so much, like I said, you and me geek out on this consistently. I love this. This is what I do. Anyway, so thank you so much, Alanna, for being here with me today and taking the time to work through this practical application of how AI and emergency management can work together. And if there's any specific topic that you as listener would like us to chat on next time, please put it in the comments. Would love to hear from you in that way. So any last words from you, Alanna?
No, thank you so much. I'm excited to get to work with you.
You too. Till next time.
Bye now.